I never thought a peaceful Tuesday evening at my Malibu beach villa would turn into the worst week of my life. Jake and I were finishing our grilled salmon on the ocean view terrace, watching the sunset paint the Pacific in shades of amber and rose, when headlights suddenly blazed through our front gate. My stomach dropped as I recognized the silver SUV pulling into our circular driveway. No phone call, no text message, no warning whatsoever. My parents climbed out first. Mom looked around with that familiar expression of barely concealed judgment, while Dad immediately started unloading suitcases from the trunk. Then came my sister Amanda, stepping out like she owned the place, followed by her husband Craig and their two kids Dylan and Emma. I watched through our floor-to-ceiling windows as Amanda surveyed our property with calculating eyes that made my skin crawl. Before I could even process what was happening, Amanda was already at our front door, her manicured finger jabbing the doorbell repeatedly. I opened it to find her beaming smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Surprise," she announced, pushing past me into our marble foyer. "We need to stay here for a few days. Our house is being fumigated for termites and all the hotels in our area are booked solid." Jake appeared beside me, his hand finding mine instinctively. We had been married for 5 years, and he could read my emotions better than anyone. The tension radiating from my body must have been obvious. "Of course," I heard myself saying, the words tumbling out before my brain could catch up. "Family always comes first." Amanda's smile widened as she gestured for Craig and the children to bring in their luggage. There were enough bags for a month-long vacation, not a few days. My parents shuffled in behind them, Mom immediately heading for our living room to inspect the cleanliness of our coffee table. "Brett, darling," Mom said, running her finger along the glass surface, "you really should dust more frequently. It shows fingerprints terribly." I bit back my response. Our housekeeper had just been here yesterday and the house was immaculate. This was Mom's way of establishing dominance, reminding me that no matter how successful I had become in my marketing career, she still saw areas where I fell short of her standards. Amanda was already directing traffic, telling Craig to take the larger suitcases upstairs, while she examined our open-concept kitchen with the scrutiny of a health inspector. Dylan and Emma, 8 and 10 years old respectively, immediately started running through our carefully arranged living space, their sticky fingers leaving marks on every surface they touched. "Emma, don't touch that vase," I called out, watching nervously as she reached for a ceramic piece we had brought back from our honeymoon in Greece. "Oh, let them explore," Amanda waved dismissively. "Children need freedom to be children. You wouldn't understand since you and Jake haven't been blessed with little ones yet." The familiar sting of that comment hit exactly where Amanda intended. Jake squeezed my hand tighter. We had been trying for 3 years dealing with fertility specialists and treatments that we kept private. Amanda knew this perfectly well, which made her casual cruelty even more painful. Craig appeared at the top of our staircase, looking down with his usual expression of entitled boredom. "Where's the master guest suite?" he called out. "I need a firm mattress for my back problems." "The blue room has a new memory foam mattress," I replied, gesturing toward the hallway. "It's supposed to be excellent for spine support." "Memory foam won't work," Amanda interjected firmly. "Craig needs a traditional spring mattress with proper lumbar support. Which room has the best view and the largest bed?" I felt my jaw tighten. The only room that met those specifications was our premium guest suite, the one we reserved for very special occasions. It overlooked the ocean and had a California king bed with a custom mattress that had cost us more than most people's cars. "The ocean suite would work," I said carefully, "but that's usually reserved for—" "Perfect." Amanda clapped her hands together. "Craig, take our bags to the ocean suite. The children can share the room next to it." As if this entire invasion had been orchestrated, everyone began moving with purpose. Mom settled into our leather recliner like she was claiming territory. Dad found our remote control and began flipping through our streaming services. Dylan discovered our sound system and started blasting music that echoed off our vaulted ceilings. Jake caught my eye and tilted his head toward the kitchen, a silent suggestion that we retreat and regroup. We moved to the far end of our granite island, speaking in whispers, while my family made themselves at home in our space. "How long do you think they're really planning to stay?" Jake asked quietly. Before I could answer, Amanda appeared beside us with that uncanny timing she had always possessed. "I heard whispering," she said with a laugh that sounded forced. No secrets between family members, right, Brett? We were just discussing dinner arrangements, I lied smoothly. I should probably order something for everyone since it's already 8:30. Oh, don't bother with tonight, Amanda said, settling herself on one of our bar stools like she belonged there. Craig and the kids grabbed fast food on the drive over, but I do need to discuss tomorrow morning with you. She pulled her phone from her designer purse and began scrolling through what appeared to be notes. The children have a very strict schedule during summer break. Dylan has swimming lessons that require him to eat exactly 2 hours beforehand, and Emma needs her special gluten-free pancakes made with almond flour, not regular flour. I nodded, trying to keep up with the rapid-fire instructions. Craig likes his coffee at exactly 160 degrees, not too hot, but definitely not lukewarm. Dad needs his medications taken with food, so breakfast can't be just fruit or yogurt, and Mom's blood sugar requires protein within 30 minutes of waking up. Jake was staring at Amanda with undisguised amazement. That sounds like quite a production, he said. Oh, it is, Amanda agreed cheerfully, which is why I need breakfast ready at exactly 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. The children are early risers and we want to get to the beach before the crowds arrive. 5 in the morning. I felt Jake's entire body tense beside me. My husband was naturally an early riser, but 5 a.m. was when he did his meditation, his yoga, his quiet coffee while reading the news. It was sacred time that he had maintained for years, the foundation of his mental health routine. 5 seems quite early, I began. Brett! Amanda's voice took on that patient tone she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. You're the host. It's your responsibility to take care of your family's needs. I would do the same for you if the situation were reversed. The unspoken message was clear. This wasn't a request. It was an expectation delivered with the kind of emotional manipulation Amanda had perfected over our 32 years as sisters. Refuse and I would be the selfish one, the bad daughter who put her own convenience above family needs. Of course, I heard myself agreeing. 5 o'clock breakfast. I'll set my alarm for 4 to make sure everything is ready. Amanda's satisfied smile made my stomach turn, but I forced myself to smile back. As I watched her rejoin our parents in the living room, already launching into animated conversation about her children's summer activities, I wondered how a simple family visit had transformed so quickly into something that felt like a hostile takeover. Jake's warm hand on my shoulder brought me back to the present moment. We'll get through this, he whispered. It's just a few days. A few days. I clung to that thought as I began planning tomorrow's elaborate breakfast menu, already dreading the 4 a.m. alarm that would shatter the peaceful routine Jake and I had built together. If I had known what Amanda really had planned, I would have locked our gates and pretended we weren't home. The next morning arrived with the brutality of my 4 a.m. alarm cutting through the darkness. I stumbled to our kitchen, grateful for the automatic coffee maker that Jake had programmed the night before. Through our windows, the ocean was still black under the starless sky, and the silence felt almost sacred before I would need to shatter it with breakfast preparations. I had barely started measuring almond flour for Emma's special pancakes when Amanda appeared in our doorway fully dressed and wide awake. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, as if she had been up for hours. "Good morning," she chirped, with an energy that felt aggressive at such an early hour. "I hope you don't mind, but I rearranged your living room furniture last night. The coffee table was positioned dangerously close to the couch, and with children in the house, we need to prioritize safety." I glanced toward our living space and felt my heart sink. The careful arrangement Jake and I had spent months perfecting was completely destroyed. Our handcrafted coffee table, a wedding gift from my mentor, had been shoved against the wall. Our custom cushions were scattered randomly across different pieces of furniture. "You could have asked me first," I said, trying to keep my voice level while whisking pancake batter with more force than necessary. "Oh, I didn't want to wake you," Amanda replied, settling herself at our kitchen island like she was holding court. "Besides, I have experience with child-proofing homes. You and Jake wouldn't know about these things yet." The casual cruelty of that comment landed exactly where she intended. Yet again, she was reminding me of our childless status, using our personal struggle as ammunition for her convenience. Craig appeared next, demanding coffee before he had even said good morning. I handed him a steaming mug, making sure the temperature was exactly what Amanda had specified, only to watch him take one sip and grimace. "This tastes different from what we have at home," he complained. "What kind of beans are you using, Ut?" "It's a Colombian blend from a local roaster," I explained. "Jake and I really enjoy—" "We prefer Folgers pick," Craig interrupted. "Could you pick some up today? The children are used to a specific taste and changes in routine upset them." I nodded and made a mental note to add grocery shopping to my already packed day. By the time the children thundered downstairs, I had prepared a spread that would have impressed a five-star hotel. Gluten-free pancakes for Emma, regular pancakes for Dylan, scrambled eggs with cheese, turkey, bacon, fresh fruit salad, and yogurt parfaits. Dylan took one look at his plate and announced he didn't like pancakes anymore. Emma declared the fruit too sour and pushed it away dramatically. Craig criticized the bacon for being too crispy, while Amanda photographed her food with her phone, complaining that the lighting wasn't good enough for her social media posts. "Brett," Mom said, appearing with Dad for their breakfast. "Do you have any real maple syrup? This artificial stuff is full of chemicals." I retrieved the bottle of pure Vermont maple syrup from our pantry, the expensive kind that Jake and I used sparingly. Amanda immediately commandeered it, drowning her pancakes until syrup pooled on her plate. "Oh, this is divine," she moaned dramatically. "The children try this real syrup. It's so much better than what we can afford at home." The comment stung because it was clearly designed to make me feel guilty for having nice things. Amanda had always been masterful at making her financial struggles seem like my personal moral failing. As I cleaned up the breakfast dishes, Amanda launched into the day's agenda. "The children need to be at the beach by 7:30 for optimal sandcastle conditions. Then we'll need lunch around 11, something light but filling. After naps, they'll want dinner around 5:30 and evening snacks around 8. "I actually have an important client presentation today," I said carefully. "I was planning to work from my home office this morning." Amanda's expression shifted to disappointed surprise. "Brett, we're only here for a few days. Surely your work can wait. Family should come first." Dad looked up from his newspaper with disapproval. "In my day, people understood that family obligations took priority over careers." I felt the familiar weight of generational guilt settling on my shoulders. Dad had never quite understood my marketing career, especially since it often required long hours and travel. To him, a woman's role was supporting family, not building her own professional success. "I could probably reschedule the presentation," I found myself saying, even though this client represented 6 months of relationship building. "Wonderful." Amanda clapped her hands together. "And while we're discussing arrangements, I should mention that Craig and I will need the ocean suite for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks? The words hit me like a physical blow. "I thought you said a few days." "Well, the fumigation is taking longer than expected," Amanda said breezily. "These things always do. Plus, the children are having such a wonderful time here. It would be cruel to cut their beach vacation short." Craig nodded sagely from behind his coffee mug. "The ocean air is really helping my back problems. I feel better than I have in months." 2 weeks is quite a long visit," Jake said, appearing in the doorway with his yoga mat tucked under his arm. His morning routine had been completely disrupted, and I could see the strain in his eyes. "Oh, Jake," Amanda said with exaggerated sweetness. "I hope our presence isn't inconveniencing you. We're family after all. I'm sure you understand how important it is for Brett to help us during our time of need." The emotional manipulation was so smooth, so practiced, that I almost didn't catch it. Amanda had just made Jake look selfish for having any concerns about our unexpected house guests, while positioning herself as the victim who needed our support. "Of course," Jake replied, his voice carefully neutral. "Family comes first." As my husband headed toward his study for a video conference call, Amanda called after him. "Jake, before you start working, could you move your car? Craig needs easier access to the garage for unloading the children's beach equipment." I watched Jake's shoulders tense, but he simply nodded and headed for his keys. 20 minutes later, I found myself canceling my presentation while Amanda supervised Craig's installation of an elaborate beach equipment storage system in our garage. "This is so much more convenient than our cramped garage at home," Amanda commented, watching Craig arrange boogie boards and sand buckets with military precision. "I might ask him to build something similar when we eventually go back." Eventually, the word felt ominous, like a threat disguised as casual conversation. By mid-morning, our peaceful beach villa had transformed into something resembling a chaotic summer camp. Dylan and Emma were racing through our halls, their wet swimsuits dripping pool water onto our hardwood floors. Amanda had claimed my home office, declaring she needed proper lighting for her influencer content creation. I found her going through my desk drawers, examining my business cards and files with undisguised curiosity. "What are you looking for?" I asked, trying to keep my voice friendly. "Oh, just getting organized," she replied, holding up one of my platinum credit cards that I had left in the desk drawer. "Wow, Brett, this is quite impressive. I didn't realize marketing paid so well." The way she examined my credit card made me deeply uncomfortable. There was something calculating in her expression, like she was memorizing the numbers or assessing its credit limit. "I should probably put that back in my wallet," I said, reaching for the card. "Of course." Amanda handed it over with a smile that seemed forced. I was just admiring it. Craig and I have been having some financial difficulties lately, so it's nice to see that someone in the family is doing well. Another perfectly placed guilt trip. Amanda had always been skilled at making her problems seem like my responsibility, simply because Jake and I had worked hard and made careful financial decisions. As the day wore on, I found myself becoming a servant in my own home. Amanda needed fresh towels for the beach. Craig required a different type of sunscreen because the one they brought was clearly inferior to whatever we might have. The children needed constant snacks, drinks, and entertainment. Every request came with the unspoken expectation that I would handle it immediately, as if my role as host meant abandoning any personal needs or boundaries. By evening, I was exhausted from a day spent catering to everyone else's demands. Jake and I finally had a moment alone while our family was watching a movie in our theater room. "I found something concerning today," Jake said quietly, handing me a hotel stationery note he had discovered in our guest bathroom trash. I unfolded the paper and felt my blood run cold. It was covered in Amanda's handwriting, detailing our morning routine, Jake's work schedule, and a list of our valuable possessions with estimated prices next to them. At the bottom, in Amanda's distinctive script, were the words, "Operation Golden Goose," and what appeared to be a timeline extending far beyond 2 weeks. My sister hadn't come for a spontaneous family visit. She had come with a plan. And looking at this evidence of her premeditation, I realized that Jake and I were not her hosts. We were her targets. The third day began with another brutal 4 a.m. wake-up call, but this time Amanda had prepared an even more elaborate breakfast request list. As I stood in our kitchen reading her detailed instructions by the light of my phone, I felt like a short-order cook in my own home. Emma now required her pancakes cut into star shapes. Dylan would only eat scrambled eggs if they were prepared fluffy style, with exactly 3 folds during cooking. Craig needed his coffee served in a specific ceramic mug because temperature retention affects flavor profiles. I moved through the breakfast preparation like a zombie, my exhaustion compounded by the fact that Amanda had rearranged our bedroom furniture during the night. She claimed the children needed easier access to the bathroom, but the result was that Jake and I could barely navigate our own private space. "Brett, darling," Amanda said as she descended our staircase wearing one of my silk blouses. "I hope you don't mind that I borrowed this top. My clothes are all in the laundry and we're the same size." We were not the same size. Amanda was at least 2 sizes larger than me, and watching my expensive silk stretch across her frame made me cringe. The blouse was from my professional wardrobe, something I wore to important client meetings. "I'd prefer if you asked first," I said, trying to keep my voice level while flipping Emma's star-shaped pancakes. "Oh, don't be so possessive," Amanda laughed. "We're sisters. What's yours is mine, right? Besides, I'm representing the family today. I need to look successful for my social media content." Representing the family. As if her appearance and my clothing somehow reflected well on all of us, rather than being outright theft of my personal property. Craig appeared next, immediately demanding that I iron his shirt, because, the guest room doesn't have proper hanging space. I found myself standing at our ironing board at 5:30 in the morning, pressing wrinkles out of his golf polo, while he criticized my technique. "The collar needs more starch," he instructed, "and be careful around the logo. That's expensive fabric." It took every ounce of self-control not to point out that I was doing him a favor he hadn't even bothered to request politely. Instead, I focused on the ironing, trying to get through another day of being treated like household staff. When the children finally came downstairs, Dylan immediately knocked over his orange juice, sending sticky liquid across our marble countertop and down onto our custom cabinets. Instead of helping clean up, Amanda simply shrugged. "Accidents happen," she said cheerfully. "Kids will be kids. Brett, could you grab some paper towels and maybe see if you have any wood cleaner? That cabinet looks like it might stain." I found myself on my hands and knees, scrubbing orange juice from crevices, while Amanda supervised and offered unhelpful suggestions. Emma decided this was the perfect time to practice her tap dancing routine on our hardwood floors, the rhythmic clicking echoing through our open concept space like a construction site. "Emma has such natural talent," Amanda gushed, pulling out her phone to record our floors being damaged by metal-tipped shoes. "Brett, you should appreciate having such a gifted niece staying in your home." By 9 a.m., I was already behind on everything. Amanda had commandeered my home office again, spreading her influencer props across my desk while live streaming about lifestyle goals and family values. Through the doorway, I could see her holding up various items from our home, describing them to her audience as examples of what success looks like. "This crystal vase," she was saying to her phone camera, "represents the kind of elegance that comes from hard work and family support. My sister Brett has always been an inspiration to our whole family." The irony was suffocating. Amanda was using my possessions as props for her social media content while simultaneously treating me like an employee in my own home. Jake emerged from his study, looking haggard. His morning client calls had been interrupted 3 times by the children's noise, and he was clearly struggling to maintain his professional composure. "I need to take a conference call in 20 minutes, he told me quietly. "Do you think you could ask them to keep it down?" Before I could respond, Amanda appeared with her phone still recording. "Jake," she called out loudly. "You're so dedicated to your work. Brett is so lucky to have a husband who provides such a beautiful lifestyle for her." She was performing for her social media audience, turning our private conversation into content for her followers. Jake's expression shifted to barely concealed irritation, but Amanda continued her performance. "This gorgeous beach villa represents everything about the American dream," she announced to her phone. "Family success and the importance of helping each other through difficult times." I watched in horror as she panned the camera across our living spaces, essentially giving her followers a complete tour of our home's layout and valuable possessions. For all we knew, she was broadcasting our address and security vulnerabilities to complete strangers. "Amanda," I interrupted, "maybe we should discuss—" "Oh, Brett's so modest," Amanda told her audience, waving off my concerns. "She doesn't like to show off her blessings, but I think it's important to inspire others with examples of what's possible through hard work and family support." She ended her live stream with a flourish, then immediately launched into her next demand. "Brett, I need you to drive me to that boutique district in town today. I want to get some professional photos taken for my influencer portfolio, and the background here isn't quite right for what I have in mind." I stared at her in disbelief. "You want me to drive you to a photo shoot?" "Well, yes," Amanda said, as if this request was perfectly reasonable. "You know the area better than I do, and I need someone to help carry my equipment and props. Plus, I might need your credit card in case I see something perfect for the photo session." My credit card. The casual way she mentioned using my money for her business venture made my stomach turn. "I actually have work calls scheduled today," I said carefully. "Brett." Amanda's voice took on that disappointed tone that always made me feel guilty. "I really need this photo shoot for my business. You have a steady job with reliable income. I'm trying to build something from nothing here. Can't you be supportive of your sister's dreams?" The emotional manipulation was so skillful that I almost found myself agreeing. Amanda had transformed her selfish request into a test of my character, as a sister making refusals seem like cruelty rather than reasonable boundary setting. "I suppose I could reschedule one call," I heard myself saying. "Perfect." Amanda clapped her hands together. "And while we're out, we should stop at that expensive jewelry store I saw online. I need some pieces for the photo shoot just to borrow for a few hours." Borrow jewelry from an expensive store, using my credit and reputation as collateral for her social media content. The audacity was breathtaking. As I drove Amanda to town later that morning, listening to her critique my car's interior and suggest modifications that would better reflect my success level, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. I looked exhausted, stressed, and defeated. In just 3 days, my peaceful life had transformed into something unrecognizable. My home felt like a battleground, my routine was completely destroyed, and I was being systematically drained of energy, money, and self-respect. But it wasn't until we arrived at the jewelry store and I watched Amanda sweet-talk the sales associate into letting her try on pieces worth more than my car that I realized this was only the beginning. Amanda wasn't just imposing on our hospitality. She was studying our lifestyle, cataloging our assets, and positioning herself to take whatever she wanted. And the most terrifying part was how skillfully she made it all seem like my choice. That evening, while Amanda was giving the children elaborate baths in our master guest suite bathroom, I decided to take our dog Charlie for a walk along the beach path. I needed fresh air and space to think away from the constant demands and chaos that had invaded our home. Charlie was a golden retriever we had rescued 2 years earlier, and his evening walks were usually my sacred time for processing the day. As we strolled along the shore listening to the rhythmic crash of waves against the rocks, I felt some of the tension leaving my shoulders. But as we circled back toward our villa, I heard voices drifting from our open patio doors. Amanda was on the phone, standing in our living room with her back to the windows, her voice carrying clearly in the evening stillness. "The plan is working perfectly," she was saying, her tone completely different from the sweet sister act she performed around me. "Brett is so predictable. She can't say no to family, especially when I make it seem like she's being selfish." I stopped walking, pulling Charlie behind a cluster of palm trees where we couldn't be seen. My heart was pounding as I strained to hear more. "Operation Golden Goose is right on schedule." Amanda continued walking around our living room like she owned it. "I've been documenting everything. The jewelry, the artwork, the electronics. You should see this place, Monica. It's like a catalog of expensive taste." Monica, her best friend from high school, the one who always encouraged Amanda's worst impulses. "The parents are buying into it completely," Amanda went on. "I've been dropping hints about how Brett flaunts her wealth and forgets where she came from. Mom's already making comments about Brett being too focused on material things." I felt sick to my stomach. Amanda had been manipulating our parents against me, using this forced visit as an opportunity to undermine my relationship with them. "The inheritance angle is working beautifully," Amanda's voice continued. "I've got photos of every expensive item in this house, plus documentation of Brett's lifestyle spending. When the time comes, I'll have plenty of evidence that she's been living way beyond what someone deserves from family money." Family money. Our parents had a modest retirement fund in their house, but nothing that would be considered a significant inheritance. Unless Amanda was planning to contest their will by claiming I had somehow manipulated them financially. 2 weeks should be enough time to plant all the seeds I need," Amanda said, settling into our leather chair like it was her throne. "By the time I'm done, Brett will look like the selfish daughter who abandoned family values for money and success." I pressed myself against the palm tree, feeling like the world was tilting beneath my feet. This wasn't a spontaneous family visit, disrupted by termite fumigation. This was a calculated campaign to destroy my reputation and relationships. "The best part is how guilty she feels about having nice things." Amanda laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. "I just have to mention our financial problems, and she immediately starts overcompensating. She's so desperate to prove she's not selfish that she lets me get away with anything." My own sister was using my love and generosity as weapons against me. Every time I had accommodated her demands, every sacrifice I had made to be a good host had been fuel for her manipulation campaign. "Craig doesn't know the real plan," Amanda continued, lowering her voice slightly. "He thinks we're just getting a free vacation while we figure out our money problems, but I'm building a case here. By the time I'm done, everyone will see that Brett doesn't deserve the advantages she has." Money problems. I thought about the foreclosure Craig had mentioned, the credit issues, the way Amanda always deflected questions about their financial situation. How desperate were they? Desperate enough to systematically destroy family relationships for potential financial gain. "I need to go," Amanda said, wrapping up her phone call. "Brett will be back from her walk soon, and I need to maintain the loving sister act. But Monica, this is going to work. Brett is so trusting, so eager to be seen as generous and family-oriented. She has no idea what's coming." I heard the phone call end and the sound of Amanda's footsteps heading upstairs. I stood frozen behind the palm trees, Charlie sitting patiently beside me as I processed what I had just learned. My sister wasn't just imposing on our hospitality or being thoughtlessly demanding. She was executing a deliberate plan to portray me as someone who didn't deserve my success, someone who had forgotten family loyalty in pursuit of material wealth. Every request she made, every boundary she crossed, every guilt trip she deployed was part of a larger strategy to position herself as the deserving daughter while painting me as the selfish one. I thought about the photos she had been taking, the social media content she was creating in our home, the conversations she was having with our parents about my priorities. She was building a narrative, collecting evidence, creating a story that would justify whatever she was planning to do next. As Charlie and I finally made our way back to the house, I passed our outdoor security cameras and realized something that made my blood run cold. Amanda had been in our home for 3 days with complete access to our private spaces, our personal information, our financial records. What else had she discovered during her systematic exploration of our lives? I entered through our back door to find Amanda in our kitchen, helping herself to our wine collection while the children watched television in our theater room. "Brett," she called out cheerfully, holding up a bottle of our wedding anniversary champagne. "I hope you don't mind, but today has been so wonderful that I thought we should celebrate family time together." She was drinking champagne that Jake and I had been saving for our 5th anniversary next month, acting like she was doing me a favor by including me in the celebration. "I was just telling the children how lucky we are to have such a generous aunt." Amanda continued her performance flawless now that I was back in the audience. "Not everyone has family who would open their home like this during difficult times." I forced a smile and nodded, but inside I was reeling from everything I had overheard. Amanda raised her glass in a toast, her eyes sparkling with what I now recognized as triumph rather than gratitude. "To family," she said sweetly, "and to always being there for each other no matter what challenges we face." As I clinked my glass against hers, I realized that Amanda thought she had already won. She believed I was completely under her control, too naive and guilt-ridden to see through her manipulation. But she had made one critical mistake. She had revealed her true agenda within earshot of someone who was finally ready to stop being a victim and start fighting back. The 4th morning brought with it Amanda's most audacious demand yet. As I stood in our kitchen at 4 a.m., preparing what had become an increasingly elaborate breakfast production, I found a note Amanda had left on our counter with detailed instructions for a beach picnic brunch that would require me to pack gourmet food for 8 people and transport it to the shore in our expensive coolers. But the note wasn't the worst part of my morning. That honor belonged to what I discovered when I went to retrieve eggs from our refrigerator. Amanda had been going through our personal belongings again. This time she had found my grandmother's jewelry collection, which I kept in a small safe in our bedroom closet. Somehow she had figured out the combination, and several pieces were now missing from their carefully organized compartments. I felt violated in a way that went beyond simple theft. These weren't just expensive items. They were family heirlooms that carried emotional significance, pieces that had been passed down through 3 generations of women in my family. When I confronted Amanda about the missing jewelry while she was styling her hair in our guest bathroom, her response was casual dismissal wrapped in plausible deniability. "Oh, those lovely vintage pieces," she said, applying what appeared to be my expensive foundation. "I just borrowed a few for my photo shoot yesterday. I meant to tell you, but you seemed so stressed that I didn't want to add to your worries." Borrowed, without asking, from my private safe. "How did you even get into the safe?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Lucky guess I don't just, Amanda shrugged as if breaking into someone's personal security was a charming quirk. "You always use Mom's birthday for everything. Some things never change." The casual way she admitted to systematically violating my privacy was breathtaking. She had spent the last 4 days studying our home, learning our habits, and accessing our most personal spaces, as if she had every right to do so. "I need those pieces back," I said firmly. "Of course," Amanda replied, but something in her tone suggested this wouldn't be as simple as I hoped. "Although I have to say, it's interesting that you keep such valuable jewelry locked away where no one can appreciate it. Grandma always said these pieces should be worn and enjoyed, not hidden in a box." Another perfectly deployed guilt trip. Amanda had transformed jewelry theft into a philosophical discussion about honoring our grandmother's memory, making me seem petty for wanting my own property returned. As I headed downstairs to continue breakfast preparations, I heard Jake's study door close and realized he was starting his morning routine earlier than usual. He had been getting up progressively earlier each day, trying to find some quiet time before our house guests began their demands. 20 minutes later, as I was arranging fruit for the elaborate beach picnic, I heard voices coming from Jake's study. Amanda's voice specifically, which was concerning since Jake was supposed to be on a private conference call with clients. I moved closer to the study door and felt my blood turn cold at what I heard. "Jake, you're always so focused on work," Amanda was saying, her voice taking on a tone I had never heard her use with my husband. "Brett is so lucky to have someone as dedicated as you. Some women don't appreciate what they have." "Amanda, I'm actually in the middle of an important call," Jake replied, his voice carefully polite but strained. "Oh, I'm sorry." Amanda's voice moved closer, as if she was approaching his desk. "I just wanted to thank you personally for being so welcoming to my family. Brett can be a bit rigid about hosting duties, but you've been so understanding." Rigid about hosting duties. She was criticizing me to my own husband, while positioning herself as the grateful guest who appreciated him more than I did. "Brett has been incredibly accommodating," Jake said firmly. "I'm not sure what you mean by rigid." "Well," Amanda's voice dropped to a more intimate tone. "She gets so stressed about little things. Like this morning, she was upset about me borrowing some jewelry, as if family members can't share beautiful things. You understand that, don't you, Jake? You're not possessive like that." I pressed myself against the wall outside the study, horrified by what I was hearing. Amanda was driving a wedge between Jake and me by portraying my reasonable boundaries as character flaws, while suggesting that Jake was somehow more enlightened and understanding. "Those are family heirlooms," Jake said, his voice taking on an edge. "Brett has every right to be particular about them." "Oh, Jake." Amanda laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. "You're so loyal. That's what I've always admired about you. Brett doesn't realize how rare it is to find a man who's both successful and genuinely caring." There was something in her tone that made my stomach turn. She wasn't just complimenting my husband. She was flirting with him, testing boundaries, seeing how he would respond to increasingly inappropriate attention. "Amanda, I really need to get back to my call," Jake said, his discomfort now obvious. "Of course," she replied, but I could hear her moving around his study rather than leaving. "I just wanted to say that if you ever need someone to talk to, someone who understands the pressure of providing for family, I'm here. Brett has never had to worry about money the way some of us have. She might not understand certain stresses." She was painting herself as the understanding confidant, while suggesting that I was sheltered and unsympathetic to Jake's professional pressures. The manipulation was so sophisticated that it took my breath away. "Brett and I discuss everything," Jake said firmly. "We're partners in every sense." "Partners," Amanda repeated, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "That's such a clinical word, don't you think?" Sometimes what a man needs is someone who appreciates his efforts without analyzing them or trying to manage them. The implications were unmistakable. She was suggesting that Jake deserved more appreciation than I provided, while positioning herself as the woman who could give him what he was missing. "Amanda." Jake's voice was cold now. "I think you should leave my study so I can finish my work." Jake, wait." Amanda's voice turned urgent. "I think we should have a private conversation about something important. Brett doesn't need to know about this, but I'm concerned about some things I've observed." My heart stopped. What was she planning to tell him? "There's nothing you need to tell me that Brett can't hear," Jake said firmly. "Actually, there is." Amanda's voice dropped to a whisper. "I've been staying in your home for 4 days, and I've noticed some things about Brett's behavior that worry me. The way she obsesses over money, the way she gets angry about sharing family heirlooms, the way she excludes family from important decisions." She was building a case against me, using my husband as both audience and potential ally in whatever scheme she was constructing. "Amanda, I'm going to ask you to leave now," Jake said, his voice taking on a tone I had never heard before. "And I don't want you to have any more private conversations with me about Brett or anything else." "Jake, you don't understand." Amanda's voice became pleading. "I'm trying to help here. I care about both of you, but I'm worried that Brett's priorities have gotten confused. Maybe if you and I work together, we could help her remember what really matters. The audacity was staggering. Amanda was trying to recruit my own husband to join her campaign against me, positioning herself as the concerned sister who wanted to save our marriage from my supposed character flaws. "Get out of my study," Jake said, his voice deadly quiet, "and don't ever speak about my wife like that again." I heard the study door open and quickly retreated to the kitchen, my heart pounding as Amanda emerged looking flustered and angry. When she saw me standing at the counter, her expression immediately shifted back to her sweet sister act. "Brett," she called out cheerfully, as if the conversation I had just overheard had never happened. "I was just thanking Jake for being such a wonderful host. You're so lucky to have a husband who works so hard to provide this beautiful lifestyle for you." But there was something different in her eyes now, a calculating coldness that she wasn't bothering to hide completely. Amanda had tested a boundary with Jake and been firmly rejected, but rather than retreating, she looked like someone planning her next move. As I watched her rejoin the children for breakfast, chattering about beach plans and photo opportunities, I realized that Amanda wasn't just manipulating our family relationships or violating our privacy. She was preparing to destroy my marriage as collateral damage in whatever larger scheme she was executing. And looking at the determined set of her jaw as she helped herself to more of our expensive maple syrup, I knew that Jake's rejection had only made her more dangerous. That afternoon, while Amanda was occupied with her children at the beach and Jake was locked in his study for back-to-back client calls, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to stop being a passive victim and start gathering intelligence on what Amanda was really planning. My first step was checking our home security system. Jake and I had installed cameras throughout the house after a series of break-ins in our neighborhood, but we rarely reviewed the footage unless something specific happened. Now I pulled up the recordings from the last 4 days, fast-forwarding through hours of mundane activity until I found what I was looking for. The footage revealed the true scope of Amanda's invasion of our privacy. While Jake and I were sleeping, she had been systematically exploring our home like a burglar casing the premises. I watched her go through our desk drawers, photograph important documents, and spend nearly an hour in our bedroom closet, examining clothing labels and jewelry pieces. But the most damning footage showed Amanda in my home office at 2 a.m. using my computer while I slept upstairs. She had somehow figured out my password and was accessing my financial accounts, my email, and my business files. The camera clearly captured her taking photos of my computer screen with her phone, documenting everything from my bank balances to my client contracts. I felt sick watching her scroll through years of private correspondence and financial records, but I forced myself to keep watching. Amanda was building a comprehensive profile of our assets, our income, and our business relationships. This wasn't casual curiosity. This was intelligence gathering for a specific purpose. The security footage also revealed something else that made my blood boil. Amanda had been coaching the children to be destructive, encouraging them to touch valuable items and make messes that would require me to constantly clean and replace things. What I had interpreted as normal childhood behavior was actually orchestrated chaos designed to exhaust and overwhelm me. Armed with this evidence, I decided to do some research on Amanda's true financial situation. If she was desperate enough to execute this elaborate scheme, there had to be serious money problems driving her behavior. I started with public records, searching for Craig's name in court documents and financial filings. What I discovered was worse than I had imagined. Craig wasn't just facing foreclosure on their home. He was under investigation by the IRS for tax evasion and had been fired from his accounting firm for embezzling client funds. Amanda and Craig owed over $200,000 in back taxes, legal fees, and restitution payments. Their credit was destroyed, their assets frozen, and they were facing potential criminal charges that could result in prison time. But the most shocking discovery came when I searched Amanda's name in conjunction with legal proceedings. She had already contacted a lawyer about contesting our parents' will, claiming that I had exerted undue influence over them through financial manipulation. The evidence she was planning to present included photos of our home, documentation of our lifestyle, and character witnesses who would testify that I had become estranged from family values in pursuit of material success. Amanda was planning to argue that our parents' estate should be redistributed to her because she represented true family loyalty, while I had abandoned family responsibilities for career advancement. As I sat in my office reading through legal documents that painted me as a greedy daughter who had manipulated our elderly parents, I realized that Amanda's visit wasn't just about free accommodation or borrowing money. She was executing a long-term plan to destroy my relationships, discredit my character, and position herself to inherit everything our parents had worked to build. But then I found something that changed everything. Hidden in a folder of financial documents on Craig's computer, which I accessed through a business partnership database, was evidence that Amanda had already been forging my signature on credit applications. She had opened 3 credit cards in my name, using information she had gathered during previous family visits. The credit cards had been maxed out with cash advances totaling nearly $40,000 money that had been used to pay their legal fees and living expenses over the past 6 months. Amanda wasn't just planning to steal my inheritance. She was already stealing my identity and my credit, using my financial reputation to fund her defense against criminal charges. I printed everything I could find, building my own case file of Amanda's fraudulent activities. Bank statements showing suspicious transactions, credit reports with accounts I hadn't opened, legal documents outlining her strategy for contesting our parents' will. As I worked, I heard Amanda's voice drifting up from the beach where she was recording another social media video about the importance of family support during difficult times. She was literally using our home as a backdrop for content about family values, while systematically destroying our family from within. But the evidence I was gathering revealed something even more disturbing. Amanda's lawyer had suggested that the best way to strengthen her case would be to document erratic behavior, on my part behavior, that would support claims that I was mentally unfit to manage financial responsibilities. That explained the weird dizzy spells and confusion I had been experiencing over the past few days. I had attributed it to stress and lack of sleep, but now I realized Amanda might be drugging my food or drinks with something designed to make me appear unstable. I rushed to our kitchen and began examining everything Amanda had access to. In my coffee container hidden beneath the regular grounds, I found small white pills that had been crushed and mixed with the coffee I drank every morning. A quick internet search revealed that the pills were prescription anxiety medication, the kind that could cause confusion, memory problems, and emotional instability when taken without medical supervision. Amanda had been systematically poisoning me while documenting my resulting symptoms as evidence of mental health problems that would support her legal case. As I stared at the evidence of my sister's calculated betrayal, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. The hurt and confusion I had been carrying for days transformed into cold, focused determination. Amanda thought she was playing a game where I didn't even know the rules. She believed I was too trusting, too guilt-ridden, and too naive to fight back against her sophisticated manipulation campaign. But she had made one critical miscalculation. She had underestimated exactly how far I was willing to go to protect my family, my reputation, and my future from someone who was trying to destroy everything I had worked to build. It was time for Amanda to discover that her little sister had grown up into someone who could play this game better than she ever imagined. I spent that evening carefully planning what would become Amanda's last breakfast in my home. As I set my alarm for 4 a.m. one final time, I felt a sense of calm determination that had been missing for days. Tomorrow morning, Amanda would get exactly what she had demanded, with a few special additions she would never forget. I started with her precious coffee routine, brewing Craig's coffee to exactly 160 degrees while adding my own special ingredient. Not the anxiety medication Amanda had been slipping into my morning cup, but something far more appropriate for someone who had spent a week treating me like a servant. The special ingredient was a powerful but harmless laxative, the kind used for medical procedures, that would ensure Amanda spent the majority of her day confined to the bathroom. But that was just the beginning of what I had planned. While the coffee was brewing, I prepared what appeared to be Amanda's perfect breakfast spread. Star-shaped pancakes for Emma, fluffy scrambled eggs for Dylan, perfectly crispy bacon arranged artistically on our best serving platter. To the casual observer, it looked like another morning of excessive hospitality. But hidden throughout the meal were subtle additions that would make this breakfast memorable for all the wrong reasons. A touch of extra salt in the pancakes, enough to make them unpalatable but not obviously tampered with. Slightly overripe fruit that would cause stomach discomfort. Eggs cooked with just a hint of expired milk that would leave everyone feeling queasy. As Amanda descended our staircase at exactly 5 a.m., wearing another one of my blouses without permission, I handed her the specially prepared coffee with my warmest smile. "Good morning," I said cheerfully. "I made your coffee exactly how you like it." Amanda took a long, satisfied sip, apparently pleased with the temperature and flavor. "Perfect," she declared. "You're finally learning how to be a proper hostess." If she only knew what she was really learning. I served breakfast with elaborate care, making sure Amanda received the largest portion of everything. She ate hungrily while directing the morning's agenda, completely oblivious to what was about to unfold. "After breakfast, I need you to drive me to that jewelry store again," she announced between bites of salty pancakes. "I want to see if they have anything more suitable for my photo shoots. And we should stop at the bank. I might need to make some transactions." "Transactions? With my identity and credit, no doubt." "Actually," I said, settling into the chair across from her, "I think we need to have a family meeting first. There are some things we need to discuss." Amanda looked up from her plate with mild irritation. "What kind of things? I have a very full day planned, Brett. Your little domestic concerns can wait." "I don't think they can," I replied, pulling out my phone and connecting it to our television screen. "I have some videos I'd like everyone to see." As the security footage began playing on our large screen, Amanda's expression shifted from annoyance to confusion to growing alarm. The first video showed her systematically searching our bedroom at 2 a.m., going through our personal belongings like a professional thief. "Brett, what is this?" Amanda demanded, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. "This is documentation of how you've spent the last 4 days," I replied calmly. "But wait, there's more." The next video showed Amanda in my office using my computer to access my financial accounts while taking photos with her phone. Her face went pale as she watched herself commit identity theft in high definition. Craig choked on his coffee, staring at the screen in disbelief. "Amanda, what the hell are you doing?" Before she could answer, I played the audio recording I had made of her phone conversation about Operation Golden Goose. Her own voice filled our breakfast area, describing her plan to manipulate our parents against me and position herself to contest their will. Mom and Dad sat in stunned silence as they heard their daughter describe them as weapons in her scheme to destroy my reputation and steal my inheritance. "This isn't what it looks like," Amanda said desperately, her usual composure cracking. "Brett, you're taking things out of context." "Am I?" I replied, pulling out the printed evidence of the credit cards she had opened in my name. "What about these are $40,000 in fraudulent charges also taken out of context?" I spread the documents across our breakfast table like playing cards, each one representing a different crime Amanda had committed while pretending to be a loving sister in need. Craig's face went white as he realized the scope of what Amanda had done without his knowledge. "Amanda, you said those were legitimate business loans." "They are legitimate," Amanda snapped, but she was starting to look genuinely panicked now. "Brett has more money than she knows what to do with. She can afford to help family during a crisis." "Help is one thing," Dad said quietly, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Theft is something else entirely." As if on cue, Amanda suddenly doubled over with stomach cramps, her face contorting with discomfort. The laxative was beginning to work, and she rushed toward our guest bathroom with desperate urgency. But the show was just getting started. While Amanda was indisposed, I continued my presentation for the rest of the family. I showed them the evidence of Craig's embezzlement charges, the tax evasion investigation, and their impending foreclosure. I explained how Amanda had been using our home as a base of operations for identity theft and fraud while positioning herself to inherit our parents' estate. "She's been drugging my coffee with anxiety medication," I told them, showing the pills I had found mixed with my coffee grounds. "She wanted to make me appear mentally unstable to support her legal case." Mom began crying as the full scope of Amanda's betrayal became clear. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would she do this to her own family?" "Because she's desperate," I replied, "and because she thought I was too naive and trusting to fight back." Amanda emerged from the bathroom looking pale and shaky, but her absence had given me time to deliver the final blow. I had contacted my lawyer and a police officer who were now standing in our foyer with legal documents and arrest warrants. "Amanda," I called out cheerfully, "you have visitors." As she saw the police officer, Amanda's knees buckled. The combination of laxatives, truth serum, and crushing legal reality was too much for her carefully constructed facade to withstand. "I need to explain," she began desperately, but the words tumbling out of her mouth were confessions rather than explanations. "It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. We just needed money for the legal fees, and Brett has so much more than she needs." Craig buried his face in his hands as Amanda continued her compulsive confessions, revealing details about their financial crimes that even he hadn't known about. "I never meant for it to go this far," Amanda sobbed, still confessing uncontrollably. "But once we started, there was no way to stop without losing everything." "You already lost everything," I said quietly. "The only question now is whether you're going to take responsibility for what you've done or keep trying to blame other people for your choices." As the police officer began reading Amanda her rights, I felt a strange sense of peace settling over me. For the first time in days, I was no longer a victim of someone else's manipulation. I had taken control of the situation, gathered evidence, and fought back with intelligence and strategy, rather than just absorbing punishment and hoping for the best. Amanda looked at me with a mixture of hatred and disbelief as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists. "You were supposed to be the naive one," she whispered. I replied, "but you taught me how to be something else." As Amanda was led away to face the consequences of her actions, I finally understood what justice really meant. It wasn't about revenge or cruelty. It was about accountability, boundaries, and refusing to enable someone's destructive behavior just because you shared DNA with them. 1 month later, I stood on our ocean view terrace with my morning coffee watching the sunrise paint the Pacific in shades of gold and pink. The peace that had returned to our home felt almost magical after the chaos of Amanda's visit, but it was a peace earned through difficult choices and painful growth. Jake emerged from our bedroom carrying his own coffee and settling into the chair beside me. His morning routine had returned to its natural rhythm, and the stress lines around his eyes had finally faded. "Any word on the sentencing?" he asked quietly. I nodded, checking my phone for the message my lawyer had sent earlier. Amanda received 18 months in federal prison for identity theft and fraud. Craig got 2 years for the embezzlement charges, but his cooperation with authorities reduced what could have been much longer. "And the children?" "They're staying with Mom and Dad while Amanda serves her time. Honestly, it might be the best thing that could happen to them. They're finally seeing what normal family behavior looks like." The transformation in Dylan and Emma during the past month had been remarkable. Away from Amanda's constant manipulation and encouraged destructiveness, they had revealed themselves to be thoughtful, creative children who simply needed consistent boundaries and genuine attention. Mom and Dad had struggled initially with accepting the reality of what Amanda had done, but the evidence had been too overwhelming to deny. More importantly, they had begun to understand how their own enabling behavior had contributed to Amanda's sense of entitlement and disregard for consequences. "We should have seen the warning signs years earlier," Mom had told me during one of our difficult but necessary conversations. "We always made excuses for Amanda's behavior because she seemed to struggle more than you did. But we weren't helping her. We were teaching her that manipulation was more effective than responsibility." Those conversations had been painful for all of us, but they had also opened the door to more honest relationships. For the first time in decades, my parents and I were building a connection based on mutual respect rather than guilt and obligation. The legal proceedings had moved quickly once Amanda's confession videos went viral on social media. The irony wasn't lost on anyone that her carefully constructed influencer image had been destroyed by her own compulsive honesty during the breakfast confrontation. But the most significant change had been internal. I had spent 32 years being afraid of disappointing people, afraid of being seen as selfish or ungrateful if I set boundaries or refused unreasonable demands. Amanda's betrayal had forced me to choose between preserving relationships and protecting myself. I chose protection, and in doing so, I discovered that healthy relationships could survive honest boundaries while toxic relationships couldn't survive accountability. Jake and I had used the experience to deepen our own partnership as well. Watching him refuse Amanda's attempts to manipulate him had shown me the strength of our foundation, while my willingness to fight for our marriage had proven to him that I would never take our relationship for granted. "I have something to tell you," Jake said, pulling an envelope from his pocket. Remember that client presentation you canceled to take care of Amanda's demands? They reached out yesterday. They want to offer you an exclusive contract that would nearly double your annual income. I stared at the contract offer in disbelief. The client I had thought I lost by prioritizing family obligations was actually impressed by my professionalism during what they saw as a family crisis. They said anyone who could maintain their composure and problem-solving skills while dealing with that level of personal stress was exactly the kind of person they wanted representing their brand. Jake continued, Amanda's chaos actually ended up showcasing your character. It was the kind of ironic justice that felt almost too perfect to be real. By trying to sabotage my success, Amanda had inadvertently highlighted the qualities that made me valuable as a professional. But the real victory was simpler than career advancement or financial gain. It was the knowledge that I could trust myself to recognize manipulation, gather evidence, and fight back effectively when someone tried to destroy my life. I had learned to distinguish between supporting family and enabling destructive behavior. I had discovered that true loyalty meant holding people accountable rather than making endless excuses for their choices. Most importantly, I had realized that being kind and generous didn't require being naive or defenseless. I could maintain my values while protecting myself from people who would exploit those values for personal gain. My phone buzzed with a text message from Dylan, who was adapting well to life with our parents. He had sent me a photo of a sandcastle he had built at the local beach with a message that read, "Thank you for teaching me that actions have consequences. I'm sorry my mom hurt you." Children, it turned out, were much more capable of understanding truth and accountability than adults often gave them credit for. Dylan and Emma had seen through their mother's manipulations once they were removed from the constant chaos and gaslighting that had been their normal environment. Craig had written me a letter from prison apologizing for his role in Amanda's schemes and explaining that he had been so overwhelmed by their financial problems that he had stopped questioning her increasingly desperate plans. He was using his incarceration time to attend therapy and prepare for an honest life once he was released. Even Amanda had begun to show signs of growth during her court-mandated therapy sessions. Her therapist had contacted me to explain that Amanda was finally confronting the narcissistic patterns that had driven her destructive behavior for decades. Healing isn't the same as forgiveness, the therapist had explained, but understanding the root causes of someone's behavior can help prevent future victimization. I wasn't ready to forgive Amanda yet. Maybe I never would be. But I was grateful for the lessons her betrayal had taught me about my own strength and resilience. As Jake and I finished our peaceful morning coffee, I thought about the foundation I had started for women escaping financial abuse and identity theft. The experience with Amanda had shown me how many people were struggling with family members who used emotional manipulation to justify criminal behavior. The foundation provided legal resources, counseling services, and practical support for victims who needed help setting boundaries with destructive relatives. It was deeply satisfying work that transformed my personal pain into tools for helping others. Our home had returned to being a sanctuary rather than a battleground. We had upgraded our security system and changed all our passwords, but more importantly, we had established clear policies about future house guests that prioritized our well-being over avoiding uncomfortable conversations. The beach villa that had been violated by Amanda's presence was now protected by healthy boundaries that allowed genuine hospitality while preventing exploitation. As the sun climbed higher into the morning sky, I reflected on the most important lesson I had learned through this ordeal. Family relationships based on guilt, obligation, and fear of disappointing others aren't really relationships at all. They're performances designed to maintain peace at any cost. Real love requires honest communication, consistent boundaries, and the courage to hold people accountable when they cause harm. It means accepting that some people will never choose growth over destruction, and protecting yourself from their chaos isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. True family loyalty doesn't mean tolerating abuse or enabling destructive behavior. It means caring enough about someone to refuse to participate in their self-destruction, even if they hate you for it. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to stop making excuses for someone's harmful choices and allow them to experience the natural consequences of their actions. Amanda had taught me that manipulation only works on people who are afraid of being seen as selfish or ungrateful. Once you recognize those fears as vulnerabilities that others can exploit, you become immune to emotional blackmail disguised as family obligation. I had learned to trust my instincts document concerning behavior and fight back strategically when someone tried to destroy my life. Most importantly, I had discovered that protecting yourself from predatory family members wasn't just acceptable. It was necessary for any hope of genuine healing and healthy relationships. As Jake and I headed inside to start our day, I felt profoundly grateful for the difficult lessons that had led to such deep peace. Amanda had tried to steal my identity, my money, and my family relationships, but she had inadvertently given me something far more valuable. She had forced me to discover my own strength, my capacity for strategic thinking, and my willingness to fight for the life Jake and I had built together. In trying to destroy me, she had helped me become the person I was always meant to be. Someone who could be genuinely kind without being foolishly naive. Someone who could support family without enabling destruction. Someone who understood that real love requires boundaries, accountability, and the courage to say no when necessary. The morning sun filled our home with golden light as Jake and I settled into another peaceful day, secure in the knowledge that we had the tools and wisdom to protect what we had built together. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where family loyalty conflicted with protecting yourself from harmful behavior? How do you balance supporting loved ones with maintaining healthy boundaries? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to hear more stories about finding strength in difficult situations. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to protect themselves from destructive family dynamics. And remember that real love sometimes requires difficult choices. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you the courage to trust your instincts and protect your peace, even when it's challenging to do so. Your well-being matters, and you deserve relationships built on mutual respect rather than manipulation and guilt.